Hello friends, my name is the real Emile and welcome back to Reach the Peak, the show where you guys recommend the cars and then I take them on a hill climb course to see which one can come out on top. Today we have 5 cars as always, however, today we are using exclusively the upgrade heroes. What these cars are the body kit presets that you can select for the vehicles, and they drop in various upgrades and engines and so on. And for the most part make them a completely different beast to the car that they are stock. We start today with the 1984 Peugeot 205 T16 upgrade hero. This thing has 512 horsepower, 421 foot-pound of torque, 2,382 pounds of weight. It is an S1 class car, 900 MPI when it is upgrade heroed, essentially. This is the least powerful vehicle here today, however it is also the lightest. It also has 4-wheel drive and it's a Group B monster, and as we know, Group B monsters have fared pretty darn well around this track. So what is the T16 like to drive? It is super fun. This is a huge amount of fun to drive up here, you know. You've got 4-wheel drive, barely any weight, a fair amount of power. You can just chuck this thing in. It is a hell of a lot of fun. Essentially, the upgrade hero thing basically takes it to crazy Group B spec, which is a really fun place to be. So yeah, it is a super fun car to drive. Likewise, well, part of the reason for that is the fact that it is stupidly fast in a straight line. The acceleration on this thing is mind-blowing. It will just accelerate out the corners at hyperspeed. It is insane. Admittedly, it's not the best handling car in the world. There is a moderate amount of understeer in this thing that you do have to watch out for. Isn't the greatest handling car in the world by any stretch of your imagination, but it's still pretty decent. You can do fast with this thing. Yeah, it's just a stupid car to drive up there. Part of the reason why it's pretty stupid though is this body kit, and this body kit is fantastic, it's a proper hill climb kit. However, this wing does produce some issues through the ice section here. You can't really see the ice, and that is a bit of an issue, combined with the fact that this car is wildly fast and can be at times a little bit uncontrollable. And yeah, I did have to slow down through there a little bit. Yeah, it's stupid fast, so my only real complaint is the wing. Other than that though, this is a fantastic fun car to drive up here, and I recommend you do so. Next up, we have a 1999 Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution VI. This thing is the upgrade hero variant, of course, 575 horsepower, 498 foot-pound of torque, 2,499 pounds of weight. S-Class car, 900 MPI when it is selected with the body kit preset. So, the Evo 6, probably one of my favourites of the Evo range, probably my favourite actually. Do really like the Evo 6, and of course this thing gets turned into an absolute monster. The Group A cars ran around 300 horsepower, and you know, they were quick certainly, and they're very iconic. But this thing basically gets taken to crazy levels. You know, 575 horsepower is quite a lot, especially when you're putting it through a car that weighs less than 2,500 pounds and has 4-wheel drive. The results of which is, again, another crazy, stupid fast car. It is just, again, another car which is super fun to drive up here. Maybe it's not quite as fast as the 205 in a straight line, but it's really minor in that regard. And on top of that, unlike the 205, this thing has fantastic handling. You really cannot upset the Evo 6 all that much. It has just stupid amounts of grip, stupidly quick, super amount of fun. This is an absolutely great car, probably one of the best cars I've driven up here. Of course, the Evo 6 is known for being a very good base for a rally car platform, but you know, just using the upgrade hero preset, you know, I wasn't expecting them to make the car handle well. You know, they put a lot of power into it, but yeah, it handles supremely well. Really very solid car to drive up here. Very quick, as you'd imagine as well. So I mean, if you want a rally car base, sort of, if you want a rally car and you're just looking for them and you can't decide what you want, an Evo 6 is a very good idea, especially with the upgrade hero preset. It makes it a phenomenal car to drive. Next up, we have the 1997 Land Rover Defender. This thing has, it's of course the upgrade hero preset again, 633 horsepower, 567 foot-pound of torque, 3,926 pounds of weight. This is the heaviest car here today. It's also the lowest in PI, A-Class 800 for this vehicle. And of course all these are running these snow tyres as always. Yeah, the Defender makes a very cool almost TVR-like noise. This has the Corvette V8 in it. I believe it's supercharged. It doesn't sound like a Corvette V8 anymore, though. I can certainly tell you that. Or LS1, I should say, because technically it's from a Chevrolet SS, I believe this engine is. Anyways, the Defender. This car isn't as great as the Evo and the Peugeot. You'd kind of imagine that, you know, it does have a lot more power, but it does have considerably more weight, i.e. this thing weighs 1,500 pounds more than both of the previous vehicles, and you can really feel that. The biggest issue with the Defender really is the brakes. They're not good. You do really need to brake very early in the Defender, and even then you're very much pushing it. You'll see through some of these corners. Yeah, the brakes just really aren't good. Sure, on the handling wise, it's fine. It can certainly handle itself, you know, it can handle the power and so on, but it is very much on the limit of what it could do, i.e. I wouldn't really want to put too much more power through the Defender's chassis over fear of it, you know, not particularly handling it well. Granted, this is an old chassis, you know, the Defender's a pretty old vehicle, and you're asking it to deal with a hell of a lot of power. Granted, the underbelly is all upgraded, it has rally suspension and so on, but yeah, it's still not an amazingly good car. Sure, it's fun, and, you know, it is quick. Don't get me wrong, you know, it is very quick for what it is. The suspension does cause some issues with bouncing because it is very, very soft, but it isn't too terrible. It's alright. It's fine. That's really the best way to describe the Defender. Next up, we have a Ferrari 458 Italia. More specifically, we have the 2009 model, and of course, it's the Upgrade Hero preset. 562 horsepower, 398 foot-pound of torque, 3,316 pounds of weight. This is the least torquey vehicle here today. However, it is the highest in PI. S2 and 913 is the PI on this vehicle. So, when it comes to the supercars, the Upgrade Hero preset for them is essentially whatever body kit comes with them. So, I believe this one runs a Liberty Walk kit. I don't know body kits too well. It gives it wider arches. And the one thing with that is, essentially what it does is it upgrades the cars to race tyres and puts bigger, like the biggest tyre whips it can on it. Now, of course, we turn them back into rally tyres for this course, but even still, it gets to keep its huge tyre width. So while it may not add a degree of power, I don't believe with the 458 it adds any power. Those wider tyres will definitely give it an advantage up here. And that being said though, 458 Italia, not amazingly good to drive. It's a little bit better than the P1, I'd say. The P1 had more power than this, considerably more power. This can get it down a little bit easier. You do have a little bit more confidence in this car through the corners, but even still, it isn't amazingly good by any stretch of the imagination. It's fine. For a supercar up here, it's pretty good, but it just isn't amazingly fantastic. It's also, you know, not a particularly exciting car to drive. Sure, driving a Ferrari for snow course does sound fantastic on paper, but when you get actually down to it, it's about on the same level as the P1. It's not terrible, it's alright, it's fine, it's probably better than fine actually. I'd probably take this over the Defender, if I'm being honest, but not a massively interesting car to drive. Between this and the P1, I'd probably take the P1 for up here, just because the P1 was a little bit more exciting. But, you know, the 458 is definitely not bad, and we'll have to wait for the leaderboard to pop up before we see how well this car actually did. And finally today, we have 3 barrels of crazy. This is the 1968 Dodge Dart Superstock with the Upgrade Hero preset, and that means 1,047 horsepower, 901 foot-pound torque, and 2,895 pounds of weight. That means this is the most powerful vehicle here today by far, and the torquiest vehicle here today by far. And 2,895 pounds isn't exactly a huge amount of weight. This is an S1 class car, 894 in PI. It is worth mentioning that. The Dart really does about how you'd expect it to appear. It is not particularly controllable. It can't particularly get the power down very well. Granted, the normal Dart is a pretty decent handling muscle car, and by virtue of that, this is probably better handling than, say, I don't know, the Mercury Coupe with these upgrades, but it still isn't amazingly well. It can get the power down. You'll see when it gets the power down, it is stupid fast. So you can see up here, I'm slowly starting to get the power down on our, I believe that's the longest straight on the course. But it just, sort of through the lower gears, it can't quite do it. Maybe going for a strategy of higher gearing may help it, but as we've seen on this course before, you know, going for the highest gears doesn't necessarily produce the best lap time up here, because you constantly want to be at peak power, peak torque, so you can actually climb the hills a little bit better. Yeah, the dart, it wasn't terribly bad. I have driven worse up here. And that's kind of the shocking thing, you know, 1,047 horsepower. I believe this is by far and away the most powerful vehicle we've ever had up here, and it's rear-wheel drive to add on to that. But it's not the worst thing I've driven up here. Certainly there have been much, much worse vehicles to drive, but even still, the Dart, it wasn't amazing. You know, most of the muscle car presets are basically very much like this. You know, they add a hell of a lot of power and so on. So I'm assuming most of those upgrade hero muscle cars will probably place around the same on the leaderboard. But we will have to see. Speaking of the leaderboard, we come to it and we find ourselves with a new leader. In fact, we find ourselves with a new number 1 and number 2. Mitsubishi Lancer Evo VI goes into first place with a 2:3.87. Almost broke the 2-minute barrier, but not quite. Peugeot 205 T16 does put in a good run as well. 202.223 knocks off the MG Metro, our previous leader, which is pretty good. Land Rover Defender finds itself in 9th with a 206.193. That is pretty respectable, beats the Gymkhana Focus. Not too far off a Bentley EXP10, so despite my qualms with that Defender, it certainly was a pretty darn quick car. The 4.5 Italia finds itself in 11th, becoming our new fastest rear-wheel drive car, 208.428. Not hugely surprising. What was surprising is the fact it beat the P1 by almost 3 seconds, so yeah, but it turns out the upgrade heroes are very, very good indeed. And the slowest car today, well, it's no surprise, it's the big Dodge Dart. However, it doesn't do too bad. 17th, 213.467. When you consider the amount of power that car couldn't use, you know, to say it's only a little bit off a Skyline R34 and a Lamborghini Countach, that isn't bad, and it is still considerably quicker than the stock Dart. I believe it was 6 seconds quicker than the Dart. So yeah, there you go. That is some upgrade heroes up the course. In the later episodes, I will be just integrating those vehicles as normal. They won't have their own special episode. But I decided, you know, I'd run a couple of them in this episode for reasons. Also, yeah. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching, friends. Mine has been the Real Emile, and until next time, farewell.